What's up, guys? Mistvallymaster for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council here. Going to have a deck profile for you guys today for a deck I've been playing around with for a while. Not too terribly long, but long enough to know that this deck is a pretty fun deck to use, and it's got a lot of potential to be good in the future, and that is Sylvan's. One of the more creative archetypes, in my opinion, that Konami's come out with recently. Although it is kind of funny how they have to come out with this whole excavating thing in order to make the archetype. You know, they couldn't make it without adding in some kind of new game mechanic, but oh well, what are you going to do? Alright, so when I first saw these guys a few weeks ago, I didn't think they were going to be all that good, and at the time, to be fair, they really weren't. But I wasn't aware that Konami they keep coming out with new support for these guys, like the new Sylvan charity, which was announced a little bit after I saw these guys for the first time. And let's see, Blade Fender was revealed at about the same time, but Blade Fender isn't all that fantastic for reasons I'll explain a little bit later. They also came out with the Sprout Collide, which is alright. I mean, he's not fantastic, but he's alright. And they came out with the Sage Koya. After they came out with like those four cards, I began to think that this deck could be a legitimately good deck. Not necessarily top tier, but good nonetheless. And it's got an interesting style of play, you know. I'm liking a couple of the decks that Konami's been coming out with recently. The fact that they're trying to promote decks that are good, that don't have to OTK to be good. In other words, you know, I find Ghost Tricks as annoying as heck. I hate playing against Ghost Tricks. Bujins, I'm not a huge fan of playing against Bujins either, especially given how much support they're going to be getting out in Primal Origin. You know, I think they're going to be, like, broken. But I do like the fact that Konami is trying to support archetypes like that are more around controlling the game rather than just spamming out a whole lot of monsters and OTKing your opponent super fast. That being said, Sylvans can OTK fairly easily depending on how you open up, how you stack the top of your deck. And I've seen some other people like build decks that are like solely meant to OTK your opponent, and they're pretty scary looking. But I'm thinking that the best variation of Sylvans is going to be a type more balanced out, not necessarily my lineup here, you know, but something closer to this that's a little more balanced than the types that are meant to OTK. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the deck profile and explain my choices as I go, why I run things, why I don't run other things, and just all that fun stuff. Alright, so we got two Sylvan Sage Koya. Good monster, easy to bring out. It's a level 7, so it allows you to go for rank 7s like Rego Sack and like Sylvan High Arbiter here, which is potentially like broken. This is a really good boss monster for the deck. I would run Big Guy if I had the space. At the moment I do not, and I feel that I kind of need everything that I've got in the extra deck. If you were to ask, well, what is something you might potentially cut out to put in something like a Big Eye, because there have been a couple of times I really wished I could bring out a Big Eye. Strike Bouncer is another one. I really wish I had space for Strike Bouncer. The first thing I'd probably cut is the Orient Dragon, because almost every time I bring out Debris Dragon, I can just go for a level 7, and Fairy Dragon and Black Rose Dragon are usually more helpful than Orient Dragon, so the first thing I'd probably cut out is the Orient Dragon. The second thing I would probably cut out, oh boy, that would be a tough one. I honestly don't know. Probably the Levier, because it's very rare to get both of these on the field and want to use them for an XC summon, so I've probably only used Levier like once in the past like 18 to 24 duels I've had. I've probably only brought out Levier like once. So that would probably be the second thing I'd cut out if you want to put in a Big Eye and a Strike Bouncer. But for right now, this is the lineup I've got. Alright, so we got two of these because it allows you to go for rank 7s, and it's nice and easy to bring out. I do not especially like Sylvan Hermitry. I know that its effect is good. Actually, both of its effects are good. The thing is, I hated whenever I would draw into it and I didn't have a way of using it. Granted, there are some things like Mount Sylvania and Sylvan Charity, which allow you to get it out of your hand. And Lone Fire Blossom, if you don't want to bring out something from your deck, you can bring out Hermitry from your hand. But if you don't have one of those means of bringing them out, it's just a dead card in your hand, and I hated whenever it was a dead card, so I eventually decided to cut it out. Flint Sage Koi instead because it's much easier to bring out. Plus, I think that the rank 7 monsters are better than rank 8s, even though rank 8s do have some very good monsters as well, don't get me wrong. 2, Sylvan Guardioak. This is the one I always turn to first when bringing out a high-level monster from my deck, be it something like Lone Fire Blossom, or, you know, if it's in the graveyard, I usually bring out Miracle Paralyzer. This is the first one I bring out because it's got the best amount of excavating power. It is a little bit weak in terms of attack, but it's not bad. It can get over most everything. But simply being able to excavate up to 3 cards versus just 1, like Sage Koya and like Flower Knight, you know, being able to do 3 is fantastically awesome. So I definitely recommend running a couple of him. We got 3 Flower Knights. I originally had 2 of these. I did not have the copy plant, and I had 2 Blade Fenders in instead. But I decided that Flower Knight is quite a bit better than Blade Fender. Blade Fender, basically, if it gets excavated, you can add it back to your hand, ditch it again for Mount Sylvania, so it's basically a free card. But it's really just not that good. It's not good enough to find its way into the deck lineup. Sure, it's got 1900 tech, and you can potentially use its effect to excavate a card from the top of your deck every turn if you destroy an opponent's monster by battle, but that's just not good enough to justify playing it in. I mean, being able to use its ability to excavate as soon as it's normal summoned is much better. And, yeah, how often is it going to stick around for multiple turns to get to attack multiple opponent's monsters anyway? You know, usually it's going to be off the field within a turn or 2 anyway. Whether it's killed by an opponent's monster, or you use it to Xyz summon or Synchro summon, unlikely it's going to stick around for long. Alright, we got 2 Evil Swarm Mandragora. Allows you to go for rank 4s much more easily, which I find is pretty important in this deck. I mean, I can make Emerald, shuffle things like the Mushroomo, the Peacekeeper, the Martial Leaf. You know, I can shuffle these kinds of things back to the deck and get extra cards off of it. Or I can make the Silent Honor Arc and steal my opponent's monsters. Those are the only 2 rank 4s I run, but, you know, they're the only 2 I think I really need, to be honest. But this allows you to go for the rank 4s more easily. Or you can just use it to Synchro summon because, you know, Spore is a thing. And Spore, I use Spore a lot in this deck. Really rely on this card a few times. And there's Copy Plant, but we've got 1 Debris Dragon, combos with Lone Fire or Martial Leaf to allow you to go for Fairy Dragon or Black Rose Dragon. It's gotten me out of a couple of tight situations. You can also use it to bring back the Mushroomo to go for Orient Dragon, but like I said earlier, that very rarely happens. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've yet to bring out Orient Dragon, other than for the purpose of simply throwing up a level 6 on the field. I mean, I haven't even been able to use it yet to, like, banish a Synchro on the field, because even though Synchros Konami gave them some more support, Xyz monsters with the new Exciting Knight and 101, Xyz are definitely the way to go again, so, you know, not many people are running many Synchros. Anyway, we got 3 Sylvan Martial Leaf, fantastic card. I definitely recommend running it 3. I don't think you can really run it less. I mean, not only has it a good ability when it's normal summon, you can excavate up to 2 cards from the top of your deck, but I mean that other ability of being able to target a monster on the field and destroy it when it's excavated, fantastic ability. 2 Lone Fire, of course, gotta run it at 2. 3 Sylvan Mushroomo, fantastic back row hate card, and that ability when it's flip face up, choosing a number from 1 to 5, and I would think you'd always choose the maximum number with any of your Sylvan monsters. There's probably 1 or 2 times upon rare occasion when you would choose to do otherwise, but you almost always choose the maximum number. Being able to excavate up to 5 cards from your deck is fantastic. If I open up with this guy, I'll normally just set it on the field because the odds of excavating something that will help get some plays going is pretty good. I mean, if you set this, your opponent attacks into it, and then you declare 1 to 5, almost certainly you'll excavate either a Flower Knight and be able to put like a Mount Sylvania on top of your deck, or a Peacekeeper you can bring at minimum, you can bring itself back, or you might be able to bring out something else that gets excavated. You might excavate Spore, which means it's in the graveyard. You can bring it back on your next turn. You might excavate a Sylvan Sproutcolite, which means you get to bring out a level 1 monster, plant-type monster from your deck, which either would be a copy plant or a Spore, or you could technically bring out something else like a Peacekeeper itself, I suppose. But, you know, usually you go for one of these two. So the odds are pretty good that you'll excavate something that gets your plays going if you just throw this down in defense position. So I do that often enough if I open up with it. Alright, we've got 3 of the Peacekeeper. Fantastic card. You wouldn't believe how many times I've used Lone Fire, like using its effect 3 or 4 times in one turn, because I can normal summon it out, use its effect, and then if I bring out something like a Guardian, and then I excavate a Peacekeeper, I get to bring back Lone Fire, and then let's say I've got some weak monster left on the field, like a Spore or something, and I've got a Super Solar Nutrient in my hand, I can use that, go for another Lone Fire, so it's very easy to abuse Lone Fire in this deck, thanks to things like the Peacekeeper and the Super Solar Nutrient. Got 2 Sylvan Sproutcolite. 2 seems to be plenty. I wouldn't recommend more than that. I hate drawing into it. If I draw into it, I have to basically hope that I either draw a Charity if I want to use its effect, or I just ditch it for something. I mean, let's say I don't have Charity in the hand at the time I have Sproutcolite. It's not useless. You can always normal summon it out and tribute it off to use Super Solar Nutrient, or you can just ditch it to activate Mount Sylvania. But the only way to use it really effectively when it's in your hand is by putting it back on top of your deck because of Sylvan Charity. Got 1 copy plant, allows you to go for all of your Xyz really easily, plus it's a tuner. So I mean, let's say you have a level 4 on the field, you can copy your level 4 like a Flower Knight or your Mandragora. You can copy its level, and then you've got 2 level 4s, one of which is a tuner. Allows you to go for your level 8 synchros very easily. Spore, of course, allows you to copy any level of 8 plant you have in your graveyard, which allows you to go for level 7s, 5s, 8s, all very easily. 3 Miracle Fertilizer. Fantastic card for this deck. Not being able to normal summon is a bit of a bummer, but, you know, it is very easy to make up for that by bringing back either a Guardian or a Lone Fire, and then tributing off Lone Fire to go for something like a Guardian or a Sage Koya from your deck. And if you've got multiples in your hand, there's nothing that says you can't activate multiples of them per turn. There was one time I had 3 of these in my hand at once, and I just kept bringing back Lone Fires with this thing, trimming off the Lone Fire, bring out something from my deck. It's broken if you open up multiples, or if you get multiples into your hand at the same time. It's just unfair. 3 Super Solar Nutrients, because we got lots of targets. We got Spore, we got Copy Plant, we got Sproutcolite, we got Peacekeeper, we've got the Mushroom Oak. So lots of targets. It will allow you to go into your Lone Fire Blossom, which in turn allows you to go into any plant type monster you want from your deck. I don't think that needs further explaining. 3 Sylvan Charity, fantastic card for this deck, really adds to the consistency. The odds, even if you somehow don't have a Sylvan card in your hand at the time you activate Sylvan Charity, the odds of not getting one when you draw 3 cards is pretty slim, so you'll almost never have to worry about putting your entire hand on top of the deck. You'll almost always have at least 1 Sylvan monster, and likely enough you'll have multiples, and then you get to put them in the order you want on top of your deck, and then you get to summon out something like Martial Leaf and trigger them. Like, let's say you put a Sproutcolite and a Peacekeeper on top of your deck, you summon out Martial Leaf, you send both of these off to the grave. Peacekeeper will bring back something from the graveyard like a Lone Fire Blossom. Sproutcolite allows you to bring out something like a Copy Plant or a Spore from the deck, and that just opens up so many combos and plays, it's not even funny. 2 Mount Sylvania, I don't think that 3 is necessary. 2 seems to be plenty because of the fact that you can easily search out from the deck with Flower Knight, and then you can bring it back from the graveyard with Sage Koya if this gets excavated. So I think that 2 is sufficient. 2 Fiendish Chain, 1 Bombless, and 1 Compulse for just a little bit of protection. As far as the extra deck goes, Keeper of Boundaries because it ruins many decks. I like Justice the Caster. Orient Dragon, which could easily come out. Ancient Fairy Dragon, Black Rose Dragon, Scrap Dragon, Stardust Dragon, Colossal Fire. This guy has saved me a few times. Crimson Blader, it seals games. Levier could come out. Gusto Emerald, 101, because he's overpowered. He's just unfair. One console Only M7, one Dragossack, and one High Arbiter. As far as the side deck goes, which is not side deck cards, these are cards you can consider. I did consider and did not run for various reasons. Crane, I was definitely underwhelmed with how useful this card was. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, it copies with combos with Dandelion, which by the way is not in the deck, you'll notice. I was not thrilled with either one of these. I mean, Dandelion was doing very little for the deck, to be completely honest. And Crane, it allows you to go for rank 3s a little more easily, but there were very rarely any times where I really wanted to go for rank 3s. I eventually just cut it out for other plant-type monsters, which do more for the deck. You know, Crane just doesn't have much synergy with the rest of the deck. Hermit Trees, I already explained, I don't like drawing into it. It's a dead draw. Blade Fenders, not that good an ability. The World Tree, I originally thought this was going to be a really good card for this deck, and it combos extremely well with Dandelion. It basically creates an infinite defense loop, but it is too slow, and now that Dandelion is out, it's just not worth putting in. Mark of the Rose, if I had the space, I would run this, but I don't have the space, therefore it's not in, but it is a fantastic card. Archfiend's Oath, I saw somebody else running this in their Sylvan deck, and it speeds up the deck a bit, because if you stack the top of your deck with something like Hermitry or the Sylvan Charity, even if you don't have a plant-type monster on the top of your deck, you can pay 500 life points, declare the name of the card you know is on top of your deck, which, by the way, DevPro shows you the top card of your deck if you stacked it, and you somehow manage to forget almost immediately what the card is. DevPro will show you what the top card is. So with Archfiend's Oath, you can pay 500 life points, declare the name of the card on the top of your deck, pick it up, add it to your hand. Fragrant Storm, again, I don't have the space, and I don't really think the extra speed is necessary, but if you think the speed is necessary, this is a fantastic card. And the 2 Polyognosis, I found that the Fiendish Chain is just better because you don't have to worry about having a plant on your side of the field that you're willing to tribute. Yes, this is fantastic that it negates like basically anything, but Fiendish Chain, you know, I just feel it's better. That's my personal preference. Alright, so that's the deck profile. If you want to check out dual videos, you can see them on my channel. As always, guys, comment, rate, and subscribe. Help the council, help myself by liking this video if you did indeed like it. Be sure to check out the rest of the videos on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council channel, and check out my channel as well. Take care, everyone. Mistvallymaster, signing off.